We are in the Synchro Festival, and these mad lads are using anti-synchro cards. They're using Monarchs Erupt. They're playing True Draco with no freaking extra deck. They're skill draining you. Now, I'm going to show you exactly how to counter these fools and be able to synchro. For this video, $100 giveaway. If you like, subscribe, comment, you'll be entered in. Let's go. I already gave you the best deck for the Synchro Festival video, and I don't play that YouTube nonsense where I just say, hey, this is the best video, then run away with your views. No, I ran tournaments. First place, J Church with Virtual World. I ran another tournament. J Church then got top 4. We got an Atlantean deck, got top 4. But then second place, Virtual World. And guess what? First place, Virtual World. So I was confidently able to tell you that this is the best deck. But a lot of you are struggling with the deck. You're not sure how to play it. You're losing against Floodgates. And I'm going to teach you how to counter the Floodgates. The main way to counter the Floodgates is going to be with your Chuchi, which you search for with your Kowloon, which you search for with your Lulu, which you search for with your Qing Long, which you send to the graveyard with any of your Virtual World monsters. These are your main 4 Virtual Worlds that activate from the hand. These are the main Virtual World cards you send from the deck to the graveyard, and these are your main boss monsters. That's right, Chuchi is a boss monster, and I will teach you how to and what to do during the duels. Yes, there's missing spots. You can put in whatever you want. You want to put in Harpy Feather Dust, you want to put in Lightning Storms. I'm going to put in some Dark Ruler No More, Call by the Grave. We got some Ash Blossom, we got some Maxis. Let's hop into the duels. Alrighty, let's hop into another duel against these True Draco fools. We're definitely going to be Ash Blossom negating the Pot of D, which will be drawing 2 for him. You also could be negating the Dragonic Diagram. Now, looking at our hand, what do we have? We just have a Lulu. We are missing all of our other monsters. But what we could do with Lulu is we could search for another monster, and with Xinglong, we could search for a 3rd monster. So we could at least have 3 monsters. We could start off the duel with an emergency teleport to get a monster on the field, or we could activate the Xinglong. So I think I'm going to do the teleport play. Let's teleport a monster on the field. And I'm going to be focusing on, instead of Lulu searching for a monster, because it's the anti-meta matchup, I'm going to be searching for the Chuchi. Chuchi is going to be our main card to help us defeat an anti-meta deck. So let's Lulu, sending a Zongwu from the deck to the graveyard. That's going to be a main focus. Zongwu and Xinglong are the main 2 cards you want to send. Now, because we sent the trap, we get to search for the Virtual World City Kowloon, which could grab us the Chuchi. We're going to summon a Coral Dragon because I do want to threaten to pop a card in the field. While Coral Dragon is not really considered our boss monster per this list, it still has a pop. So I could discard a card to pop a card in the field. So that's why I chose to summon the Coral Dragon. He's going to flip up his Floodgate. And just like that, most decks would fall over right here, right now. If you didn't have Harpy Feather Duster, you're done. But due to playing a Virtual World deck, you just need to search the Lulu or open up the Lulu. So with any of these other monsters, we could have sent a Qing Long to the graveyard, which would then search for Lulu. Then Lulu would search for the Kowloon, which would give us a face-up Chuchi to destroy that face-up Monarchs Erupt that negates the entire field of monsters. Now, because our monster effects activate from the hand, they do not get negated by the face-up Skill Drain / Monarchs Erupt, which is essentially the same thing. So we are good. We got the Chuchi, we just need 2 cards banished. We're going to use the Kowloon to summon a monster from the graveyard. That will trigger the Nyan from the graveyard, come forth and summon. Also, what's great about that is it discards our Xinglong from the hand. So Xinglong from the hand is going to search for a Lily. We have a ton of tuners on the field, so let's get the Lily. Non-tuner Lily. And we're going to come forth and summon the Lily after Pot of D'ing. Draw 2, we don't even need this Pot of D. Come forward, Lily. Special summon itself onto the field. We're going to send a card from the deck to the graveyard. Now, what are we sending? We targeted traps, so we're going to send a spell and a monster. That's it. These are the priority cards. We already used Nyan this turn. We already used Xinglong this turn. So if there is even another turn, this is going to help us with a follow-up. Now, we could have searched for a GG instead. If we wanted to search for GG instead, we would then be focusing on our main boss monster being the Shen Shen, which is very good. But generally, I do like Sigma more than Shen Shen, but both are amazing. If you get Sigma or Shen Shen plus a Chuchi on the field, you're going to beat all these anti-meta fools. Now, let's get ready. We're going to Coral Dragon, even though we're negated, but we're going to Chain Link to Chuchi, pop the Floodgate. And that's it, mate. Search for the anti-Floodgate Chuchi. work towards summoning the boss monster Sigma or the Shenshen, we have a Sigma play here. He surrenders. He's done. So with the Coral Dragon and the Lily on the field, we would make Sigma. Then Coral Dragon would draw into a card. Maybe we would have drawn into a GG, and that's a GG no re. That is how you beat these anti-meta floodgate fools. All right, with our opening hand, we want to identify our main 4 virtual worlds that we have. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3. And we know that any of the virtual worlds could search for the 4th one. How so? By sending the Qinglong. So we do want to focus on sending Qinglong to search for the 4th one. And remember, Lulu, its main job is going to be searching for the Chuchi, which is part of our main boss monsters. So let's focus on that. The number 1 goal right here is to summon a virtual world so we could then activate our virtual world effects. So what do we want to send from the deck to the grave? We want to send a Qinglong, or you want to send a Zhongwu, or you want to send a Nyanyan as your main priority. Now, we are fortunate enough to have all 4 of the virtual worlds right here, so we should be prioritizing sending a Zhongwu. Lulu is going to be targeting the Lulu so that we could grab the Chuchi so that we could destroy face-up back row. Right now, that back row card negates all of our monster effects in the field. So we're completely negated on the field, but our monster effects activate from the hand. They resolve from coming from the hand, so it does not get negated. We still search the Kowloon, and we sent the virtual world Zhongwu. Otherwise, if we didn't have all 4 of our monsters, we would have sent the Xinglong. Now, by searching the Kowloon gives us access to an immediate face-up Chuchi, which we then need 2 cards banished to be activatable to destroy floodgate cards like the Monarch's Erupt. So let's focus on that. We got the Kowloon. We're going to use the Lily to send a card from the deck to the graveyard. What should we send here? We could send a Chuchi or a Qinglong. We cannot send a monster if you target a monster. We're going to send a Qinglong, which will give us a follow-up for next turn. Now, the Lily was able to send 2 cards. We sent a Chuchi and a Qinglong. Now we are going to activate the Chuchi to boost up the level of the Lily. Why? Well, if we look at our main boss monsters, my priority against a true Draco deck is going to be to summon a Final Sigma, which will be unaffected by everything. Completely unaffected, but the Final Sigma will be negated by the Monarch's Erupt. So we're focusing on trying to activate the Chuchi on the Monarch's Erupt, and then summon a Final Sigma, which will be unaffected by everything, only in the extra monster zone. It is a level 12 Synchro. So let's focus on that. We're discarding Nyanyan. We got Nyanyan in the graveyard. Very good. Kowloon grabbing the Chuchi. Do we have enough cards banished? We finally have enough cards banished. So I didn't want to activate the Kowloon until I was able to get 2 cards banished so that I could definitively take out the Monarch's Erupt. What's really great about a face-up Chuchi is that a face-down Solemn Judgment cannot negate the Chuchi. Once it's already face-up and it activates to destroy, that's it. You just played around Solemn Judgment. So let's wipe out the Monarch's Erupt. He's going to flip up his trap. That's fine. He's additionally summoning. He's going to get poppin'. But we have all 4 of our monsters, and we had ways to search if we didn't have all 4. We are going to be returning our 2 cards to wipe out the Monarch's Erupt. Goodbye. We're no longer negated on the field, and now it's a perfect opportunity to summon our main boss monster, the Final Sigma. And if this resolves, we pretty much ought to win, because we're going to be unaffected from everything. Unfortunately, the Mad Lad Solemn Judgments our Sigma. That sucks. Now we're going to use Lalo. Lalo is one of our main 4 monsters that will summon a virtual world from the graveyard. That's going to trigger his Dynamite to grab a trap from the deck. That's fine. We're sending a Xinglong from the deck to the graveyard for a very good follow-up. We're going to special summon a Lily from the graveyard, and then he's going to pop us again. We're getting popped like crazy. We're playing through all this back row, Solemn Judgment, through a Floodgate. Let's go. Activate summon the GG Shokan. Now, when you summon the GG, any level 3, that will trigger the Nyanyan in the graveyard because that is a priority to get in the grave. When you summon a level 3, normal or special summon, the Nyanyan will special summon from the grave. And now we're summoning one of our other main boss monsters. See how we focused on summoning the Final Sigma? Now I am summoning the Juju. Juju is going to be able to send a card on the field to the graveyard. So now that we have that, let's do it. We're going to use the Juju to send the Dynamite to the graveyard. And then with Juju, we're going to make another boss monster, which will be a Vermilion Dragon Mech. This will banish a tuner from the graveyard or field or from your hand to pop a card in the field. Let's take out another monster. And now the Zanwu, which was one of the first cards we sent to the graveyard, it's going to special summon the Juju back onto the field. Is that not nuts? So let's completely wipe out all the monsters, dealing with the Solemn Judgment, dealing with the Monarch's Erupt Floodgate. This is how you do it. You need to control your opponent with Chuchi. You need to control them with the Sigma. You need to get Shen Shen on the field against this deck also. Shen Shen makes it so their spell and traps when sent to the graveyard, they don't activate because they're never sent to the graveyard. They need to be sent to the graveyard. Anything sent from the field to the grave is banished instead. And the Shen Shen is so resilient, it comes back every single turn. So we did focus on wiping up the entire field instead of summoning a Shen Shen in this circumstance. He's going to wipe out the Vermilion Dragon Mech, which then activates to grab a banished monster. You want to grab your banished Lulu. So when your Lulu is banished, your Vermilion Dragon Mech, when destroyed by card effect, will grab her back. Absolutely nuts. He is popping off. He's drawing. That's fine. Hopefully it doesn't draw any more floodgates, mate. Into a Harpy Feather Duster. Now, I know that's not fair, but I mean, come on. He had a Solemn Judgment. It wasn't that big of a deal. He's got the Ash Blossom. It's going to be negating our Lulu. We have not performed our normal summon yet. That is fine. We got plenty of follow-up. We got the Zinglongs. The multiple we sent to the graveyard is going to search our deck. He is going to search and or activate a continuous spell, but we don't care. We plowed right through a Solemn, right through a Monarch's Erupt by continually summoning, focusing on our boss monster cards. I know Chuchi's not a monster, but it's one of our bosses. You want to get Chuchi on the field. Just swarm your main 4 monsters on the field, and you're just going to end up winning your duels. Focus on these cards and what to send. Focus on getting access to these 4 monsters to activate from the hand. And then focus on making these boss monsters to defeat anyone. All right, we're hopping into another duel against True Draco. And if we look at our main 4 monsters, we only have 1. But we know that with 1, we can have access to another, which could be the Lulu. So we will at least have a GG into a Lulu, and the Lulu will at minimum be able to search us a Chuchi. So let's focus on that. Looks like we got the Qualoon, so Qualoon will grab us the immediate Chuchi, which means now when we grab a Lulu, Lulu can now grab a 3rd monster, so that is amazing. With the GG, you want to send a Qinglong to the graveyard so that we could search for the Lulu, which is exactly what we did. With the Lulu, we're going to want to search for a Lily or a Lalo. Now, let's quickly evaluate our situation here. To get the maximum use out of the Lalo, we're going to want to have a Virtual World monster in the graveyard, a special summon with this effect. We do not have one. Now, Lalo could send a monster from the deck to the graveyard, but then you cannot reborn that monster with Lalo's effect. So ideally, you do want to send a Nyan to the graveyard. We could send Nyan, you could send Qinglong. If we target a monster, we could send the Zanwu. Those are all options. So let's focus up. Let's see what they do. They're going to summon an Ignis Heat, wiping out the Lulu. Now we're going to lay low, targeting the Chuchi to send a monster from the deck to the graveyard. And in this circumstance, I believe I send a Zinglong instead of a Nyan. I'll tell you, I think that's a mistake. I should have sent the Nyan to the graveyard because now that I have Lulu in the grave, I would have been able to lay low, special summon the Lulu, which would trigger the Nyan to summon onto the field, and I'd have more monsters. Because I already have so many Qinglongs in the graveyard, I don't need another. Come forth and summon Lalo. Lalo summoning the Lulu. And then we're going to Shokan into a Charge Warrior. But wait, the Charge Warrior was not one of our boss monsters. Well, it's a means to an end. It's going to help us summon our final Sigma. The Charge Warrior on summon will draw a card, and then with the 6+6, I want to summon final Sigma, and then we win. But the Mad Lad, Solemn Judgments, our Charge Warrior, which would have just drawn a card and helped us summon the final Sigma. So that's okay. We're going to follow up normal summon the GG Shokan into one of our boss monsters, which will be the Shen Shen. There you go. Shen Shen will make it so any of their cards will be banished instead. So now that the True Draco Heritage was banished instead of being sent to the graveyard, it does not activate to destroy our Chuchi. So we have full control of this duel, with the Chuchi being able to every turn destroy a face-up card, everything on the field being banished instead. The Apocalypse when sent to the graveyard is going to be banished instead, so it will not destroy a monster. Shen Shen straight up, just summoning this with a Chuchi, you're going to win against these anti-meta decks because this will also come back on the field if something happens to it. And something will happen to it because it's 1400 attack due to the Apocalypse. Now, he is going to be activating his Heritage. He's going in, wiping out the Shen Shen. That is fine. To the grave Shen Shen goes, but Shen Shen comes back every single turn. He's going to pop, search for the Dynamite. We don't care about that. Goodbye to Chuchi, but I got another Chuchi. Just get the Chuchis on the field, whip out your Shen Shen, wipe up the field. Let's do it. Shen Shen is going to banish 2 cards in the graveyard to come forth and summon back on the field. We're going to chain flip up the Chuchi. I'm not chaining to pop a card in the field, though. We're just flipping it up. So everything is fine here. Grabbing his continuous spell. Come forth Shen Shen back onto the fields. And now everything sent to the graveyard, including our own cards, will be banished. Lulu targeting a non-monster allows us to search for a monster. So just remember that with Lulu. Lulu searches a monster, and the Qinglong searches a monster. Those are the 2 ways to search a monster. We're going to special summon the Lalo, special summoning the GG, triggering the effect of the Nanian. So this time, with the Lalo, we made sure to have Lalo send a Nanian from the deck to the graveyard. See that? Nanian sent to the graveyard, and then we were able to summon another level 3 on the field, which would trigger the Nanian from the grave to summon onto the field. So that is the ideal Lalo to get 3 monsters on the field. We're now going to Shokan into Juju, one of our main boss monsters. Nanian just returning a card back into the extra or back of the deck, not a big deal. Xinglong from the first turn searching for one of our main 4 monsters that we didn't activate yet, so just focus on which one you didn't activate yet. We're going to Lili onto the field. Come forward, Juju, send a card in the field to the graveyard, which will banish it. He's going to activate the Apocalypse to reduce our entire field by half, but I'm going to chain the Chuchi to negate. Negate, destroy it, it gets banished, does not activate. We have the Ignis Heat is going to get banished. Everything's getting banished, all thanks to the Shen Shen. And that really is it. You just need to control the duel with Chuchi, Shen Shen, Final Sigma, pop him up with the Vermilion Dragon Mech, pop him up with the Juju, and just use up your main 4 monsters. Lulu searches for a monster when it targets a non-monster on the field. Xinglong's going to be the main card you send to the graveyard to search for one of your 4 monsters you did not search yet. Lulu and Lalo are your tuners. They are the wind tuners, and then we have the earth non-tuners, GG and the Lili. So this is what you send. These are your main monsters, and these are your main boss monsters. Let's go.